But
Stream live stream.
we have to do anything else here?
You'll always see on the top left,
So,
that's how you'll
So the
know.
media's being live streamed, got it?
But,
Let's leave that.
yep, now we're good.
There we go. It's
Oh, you can
a,
just press on it, yeah.
all right, good evening, everyone. We got our technical issues taken care of. So we'll call this meeting of the Finance Committee to order here at 6:44 in the evening. I think we'll go ahead and start, John, with you. That's our practice. And then we will be altering the agenda just a little bit, moving item number 10 up to the beginning, so that Gregory can be on as well. All right?
Okay, thank you. I passed out some of the handouts. I sent an email earlier today with some additional information on the accounting reports. We have this narrative of the sales tax. On a year-to-date basis through May, we continue to perform well with budget. On the expenditure side, I looked at where we were at this point last year. Compared to this year, we're right in line. So I would expect, absent any actions by the council, we'll get into that in a minute, we would underspend our adopted budget without any additional action by the council. We have taken some additional action to spend down fund balance, then spend down contingency. I think it's going to be important to look at those items with respect to our fund balance policy. We talked about where our fund balance was at the end of 2021, when I gave you that report, we're slightly over the 20% mark. So on a year-to-date basis, our spending looks good. On the revenue side, sales tax, you have a new update. There was a significant negative adjustment sales tax. The 2 checks ago, we received a payment that was $432,000 less than what we received in a prior year. We do receive quarterly adjustments in our sales tax. We had some communication with the county, and then also through, got passed along some information from an association of counties explaining the adjustment, but the simple version is that New York State allocates sales tax in its biweekly checks, essentially on a estimated basis between upstate and downstate. And on a quarterly basis, it reconciles those amounts. And its allocation between upstate and downstate is essentially on historical trending. When they did this most recent quarterly reconciliation, more money got shifted to downstate, which means that the downstate economy has picked up a lot from where it was some time ago. So that is the explanation for this most recent adjustment. We were over 20% higher than the prior year sales tax prior to that adjustment. We're still at 11.5% over our 2021 levels. So to give you an idea, we finished last year with $17.8 million in sales tax. We're still 11.5% estimated over that. Our budget is only $16,250,000, so we're still in very good shape on sales tax. Even if we finish level with last year, we'd still be roughly $1.6 million over budget revenue for sales tax. So we budget that conservatively, based on everything that's going on with the virus and the economy at the time. So I think we're in pretty good shape there. If anyone saw it in the news feed today, inflation, there was a big article from Wall Street Journal. Inflation in June hit the highest level since 1981. So we're at a 41-year high right now. On a year-to-date basis, on a 12-month basis, the inflation has risen 9.1% before seasonal adjustments. So most of that is in the energy sector. But as you know, there's pressure everywhere. There's pressure in housing, there's pressure in commodities, there's pressure in vehicles and other purchases. Gasoline's up 60%. That in terms of what the city spends money on, that's in the operating budget, that's a large item. But where we're seeing other pressures, obviously, you're seeing the monitor pressure, seeing the project costs go up. So we're seeing it there. So continue to keep updated on the inflation, but the intermediate term forecast for that appear to be leveling out a little bit. So hopefully we hit the top of the crest, but we'll see. Everything else looks like it's in good shape. Going back to a prior discussion, we provided the council with a plan to spend down some fund balance to get within the fund balance policy. The council did pass a resolution to spend almost $1.5 million on repaying debt and then funding capital purchases that were otherwise planned to be borrowed. You're gonna have a request tonight for $750,000 for paving. You're also, in a future month, you're gonna see a request for pay down or to fund the retroactive payment for a union contract that the council approved earlier this year for KPBA. So as of right now, I have estimated that the council will have approved almost $3.3 million of fund balance withdrawals for this year. So, as our revenues continue to be strong, as the spending stays in line, the council is taking some proactive measures to keep our fund balance in check. So, just want to pass that information along. If you have any questions on it, feel free to reach out. But once again, the council's passing these. Some of these are, going to be based on timing, obviously. Sales tax continues to pour in, so we'll continue to keep you updated on where we think the fund balance is going. And then in terms of contingency, the contingency level prior to this meeting was at almost $372,000, based on a resolution that passed last night. And then if everything on this agenda tonight passed, all the withdrawals from contingency would leave contingency at $285,000.
Is that consistent with past years?
It's really been a little over the board, Rennie. The 285 is a little light. I think what we'll end up doing is we're going to have to look for some shifting of funds from other sources to replenish contingency. As of right now, the employee benefit accounts are significantly underspent because of staffing shortfalls and vacancies. We're over in health insurance, we're over $500,000 under budget right now. So I can see where some of that would, could get moved into contingency. And the reason for that is the regular pay accounts are, they're significantly underspent. I had pulled a report, looking at those numbers. Through June, we're only 42% spent on our regular pay. And we've only hit 12 of our 26 payrolls. We should be around 46%. We're at 42. It doesn't sound like much, it's 4% difference, but it's 4% of a $17.3 million budget. So significant dollars. But it's mainly because of just staffing shortfalls where we have vacancies and it takes time to fill. That's every department. I know the police department has had some vacancies that they've had delays in filling. And it's citywide, it's been public works and others. So.
All right, any questions for John?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So as I noted before, we will move to item number 10, which is the transfer of property to beyond the Four Walls Outreach Program proposal. It's from Mayor Noble. Mayor Noble, you want to start us off, or should Gregory speak?
Sure, I can
first,
maybe
or-
just start the conversation by just saying that in your packet is a letter from Beyond the Four Walls. The history here is that last month, Majority Leader Worthington and I met with Gregory and his board at the former Grand Slam bar on Grand Street to discuss the potential for moving his outreach operation from its current location at 14 Van Buren Street to a potential foreclosed and vacant city building that has been empty and vacant for a really long time here in the city. It's a former commercial space. It's been difficult for us to find uses for a municipal purpose. And so trying to, as Greg can attest, his operation to benefit the community has really grown a lot over the last few years. And he's definitely outgrown his location, and there have been issues with our building safety department, related to his operations there. And so we, I think collectively felt as though by providing him the opportunity to utilize this space for his nonprofit, he could still continue to meet the needs of our residents by providing them free access to clothing and food and a whole variety of kind of community-based services. And so that's, I think, what we're here to talk about tonight. I don't know, Rita, if you have anything you want to add based on our conversations? If not,
No, you pretty much said everything, and, that's going on over there.
Okay, you want to take this point?
I just want to help people, and this would be a great way of, one, getting our home back, two, continue to help people. People are always going to need help, and every day is more and more people. I just want to help people, and I would be grateful if, the way I see it is, if you say yes, then this will be history. It'll be a free, completely free store, for people to come to get what they need. And they will forever remember Kingston for such a reason.
Good, thank you. We have questions, anybody else have questions? Tony Davis?
Hey, Gregory, it's a great program that you're doing over there. I mean, I know me and my wife contributed, food and clothing to this, organization over the several past years. I know that you've outgrown the neighborhood street with the clothing on there. And I would just, a great thing. I would just want to see, including this, whatever kind of agreement that we go forward, and that we can have the clothing and everything else like that on the front porch of this new location, that everything would have to be stored inside, not only for safety reasons for not only the people who are coming to contribute or take items, but also, safety for the city personnel, if there ever was an emergency there, and that, personnel will be able to get in there safely without any obstruction. And so that would be the only thing that I would want to see included in this agreement, is that the clothing and all that, those items have to be maintained inside of the building at all times.
But that's one of the purposes of having the building. There's rooms upstairs, in my mind, would already be for storage.
Mm-hmm. So what times of the day are you in operation? I know right now people can just walk on your porch and take what they want, but wasn't there ever set times that this, your organization was going to be open, the doors open?
Well, if we get the building, of course, it'll be set times and probably a few set days, just to see how things go in the beginning.
Mhm.
But it's definitely gonna be set time.
Okay. Again, that would be only thing that I would like to see included in there, that some type of thing that, is that the items that are left on there have to be stored inside. And so, you don't get to this thing here where everybody's just leaving everything on the front porch, and it becomes again, I would have a problem for building safety.
I was thinking about keeping 14 Van Buren Street as the drop-off space for control and transport stuff over, so that I know how much, and then nothing to be on the porch. That I think we'd have more control,
So you're thinking of still keeping 14 Van?
only as drop-off.
Drop.
So that so we won't have any further issues, and I'll be transporting stuff over myself.
And 14, that is your residence there as well? So you would just want to have that as a maintain to see what's coming in and then transport it over to Grand Slam.
And then be more control.
Other questions? No? Rita?
First, Greg, I just want to say this is a great venture that you're doing right now, and I appreciate that, you're providing this stuff for people who need it the most. And my question isn't necessarily directed at you, but just in general. Have we kept up with that building? Because I know it's been out for a really long time, so I'm just wondering, like, the structural integrity of the building, and if it's, is it up to code, and when was the last time it was checked, anything like that? I mean, I don't think we have a problem. I'm not speaking for myself here, saying yes to this, but I also have concerns about
Yeah, no, I mean,
safety of everyone.
right, and so generally what would happen, with any, initiative like this, the building would need to be brought up, not by us, but by the organization
Okay.
to bring it up to code, for its purpose. It's out of all of our vacant and abandoned buildings, this one is actually in relatively good shape. Structurally sound, relatively speaking, it's not been vandalized on the interior, it's not been stripped of any of its materials inside, like many of our houses that we get through this process are. And so, meeting with Greg and his board, my understanding is that you have a kind of an engineer, architect type person on your board, you also have a builder type contractor on your board, and meeting with them, I got the sense that they felt that they could, raise funding, do work themselves in kind, to be able to make sure that our building safety department upon inspection, would need to, meet current code for that type of building. So that would be, I think, a part of any, final, sales agreement between the city corporation counsel's office and the nonprofit. We would work to make sure that the kind of language that Alderman Davis just mentioned and the concerns of making sure that the property will be brought up to code, that stuff will be stored on the porch, because again, that's the building safety code violation. All of that would be kind of part of a sale agreement, as well as the continuing, as I said in my letter, is part of it continuing to be used for those purposes. If the purpose was to change, or Greg moves to a different community, or the program ends, we would be able to have the building come back to the city, as part of this transfer.
Actually, forgot what I was going to say, listening to what was being said.
Can I jump in, because it's kind of a piggyback, did that all include ADA compliance as well? When you're talking about making sure it gets up to the building safety code?
Yeah, I mean, again, that would be a great question, but my sense is that I don't know, if there's substantial renovations to the property, most likely, there may need to be, but I'm not an ADA code compliant person, so that would be a building department discussion that Greg's group would have to have, to see what needs to happen. There are multiple entrances in and out of the building, and I don't know if that side porch had a ramp. I know we went up steps to do it, but I don't know if there was already a ramp further down the porch that we didn't go. I don't know. We'd have to, that would be something that they would look into.
Can we put that in the language?
There was a ramp at one point someplace around.
Yeah, around the back of the corner. Yeah. Again, I want to explore the building that deeply.
And what were to happen if, what comes first? We transfer the property and then the building, the board goes through with getting it up to code. What happens if they can't get it up to code? Does it just not move forward? Is there going to be a clause that says the city takes it back? Is that going to be something that we would work into the contract just in case, so that it's not them if they aren't able to do it, and we don't have a building just sitting there?
Well, regardless, the building will be sitting there because it's sitting there now.
Right.
And nothing's happening with it. So I maybe it's a better question for Gregory if we're going to put all kinds of, stipulations in the contract to see if that's something that he thinks he and his staff and or board would be able to do. Because there's some stipulations that come with transferring the building to you. So I know I've spoken to you personally and you said that you can handle it. And so I'm trusting that you can. Right now, the building is empty. it's not up to code. It's, you need a place for where you are because you're not up to code either. And so we just want to make sure that you're going to be able to handle it. I think you will, but maybe we need to hear you say it.
It's gonna happen, I just need to build it. People love us. And if I need something, I'm sure I put the word out there that people line up to help.
Would the fridge be moving to that
No.
location too?
Please understand.
I'm presuming that there's back taxes owed on this property.
There are, yeah.
What's that number?
118,532.82.
And so, in essence, the city would be eating all these back taxes.
It is.
Because we're selling it for $1, right? So this is a contribution in essence by the city of $180,000. So for, if we're talking about that much money, I think we need to have some very clear guarantees, because I recognize a lot of people are very appreciative of work that's done. Other people complain about, the state of the facility now.
That's because it's my house.
Right, I understand, but that's why we're concerned, just to make sure that we're all on the same page, that, if building safety comes around, it's not a question of them trying to pound you. It's a question of them trying to make sure the buildings are all covered, right? Okay.
I was wondering if maybe somebody from building safety should go walk around with Greg and say, this is what needs to happen. And then, they're gonna know better than anybody else in this room. And then you have a checklist and say, okay, I can do this, or I can do this much of it, and take it from there.
I would say that puts our building safety folks in a little bit of a, uncomfortable position, as they're the ones that are kind of required to enforce the rules and regulations that we have. And, I would prefer to defer to kind of Greg's architects or engineers to kind of tell us what they want to do. And then our building safety folks can obviously check on that and make sure that that meets code. But it puts us in a little bit of a tough position for us to go in and tell him, you should do this, you should do that. We should let him tell us what he wants to do. And then, we'll try to work with them as best we can to make it work. Within the balance that we have. And I think he has the support on this board to be able to help and bring those plans to the building department. We talked about that on our site visit.
Well, yeah, whatever, chicken or egg first.
Yeah.
I think this, the agreement to sell it for $1 and, somewhere in that language be that obviously that reverter clause that if they can't do it, that then it's gonna come back to the city and again, sit there vacant with the back old taxes on it. And so at this time, those back taxes are still owed. The building's been deserted for several years. And it's a building that at this time can be used for this new program. And we should, I'm in agreement to sell it to them, this with that, in that reverter clause or whatever, that going through it, his board can't, and after looking at it, says, we can't do this. And it would just come right back to the city. I just want to make sure that language is in there. I have all faith in Greg and his board that they're going to be able to do it and moving forward, so, I'll be in agreement with that.
That's where I'm coming.
So I just asked you to Rennie, and look, I think this is all straightforward. I think it's a great generous offer from the city. It sounds like a wonderful program. And we have a dilapidated structure now, and this is a chance to improve on the dilapidated structure. Worst case outcome is you cannot perform and it reverse in the city. I expect you to be able to perform. This is the worst case scenario. And we're back right where we started. We tried to do good and it's all over. So this is one of those situations where we can get a lot of good out of it. Worst case thing that comes out of it, right back where we started. So let's make a very clear case for moving forward.
All right, so there any other questions?
Just logistically, are we gonna have a contract before, I mean, all these clauses and everything we've been discussing, it seems like we're all on the same page. Is our court counsel, you gonna be writing a contract for this? Is that before we sign on the dotted line, or are we signing on the dotted line and then gonna see the contract after we sign on the dotted line?
And from my perspective anyway, the resolution that we would put in front of you at the council meeting in August would have any clauses, just like you guys have done with all of your other properties that you've sold in the past. There'd be a clause that says that there's a revert clause for these reasons, and that would, making sure that, it meets building safety codes, like you can include that, so you'll see that in the resolution. Prior, and it doesn't refer to it in the committee report, but the resolution that our council's office produces for this will have at least those more kind of written out details, which would then go into a contract after the fact. Okay.
So,
Okay. The committee report reads proposal to transfer the former grandstand restaurant and bar to beyond the four walls for $1 pursuant to them agreeing to move their facilities from Van Buren Street to Grand Street and allow the city to place a reverter clause on the deed in case the organization ceases to exist or ends its work. Do we have a motion to discuss? Davis, second. Riviere, any discussion then beyond what we already have? Any further discussion? In that case, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye.
Who's motion?
You motion.
All right. I thought it was just for discussion.
Yeah, that was motion to discuss, which leads to the vote, right? Okay, so it's unanimous. So, it's not clear, so this is an advisory vote right now. What it means is, we all recommend the full council to vote yes for it. Things can change between now and then, so nothing's guaranteed. Well, you've got folks who can write letters, or give members of the council, it's always a good idea to have one that support, especially I think you heard from the concern, so for the people on the board, might be able to speak to that, it might be helpful to write a letter or something and support. But that's the way it works, okay? All right, Darren, thank you. And now you can stay if you want to, and listen to all the stuff we were talking about.
You mentioned that it will be voted on at the August meeting.
It's the August meeting. It'll be August 2nd.
Do I have to be there?
No, you don't. There is public speaking as part of that though, so if somebody wants to show up and provide support, they can show up and speak at that. People can also just write it. Okay. All right, good. So we'll now move back to our regularly scheduled agenda. The first item is coming from the Office of Community Development. This is a transfer to cover retirement costs for a member of that department who is retiring. The estimated financial impact will be $2,397. Do we have any questions about this? All right, we have a motion to discuss. Michael Olivieri, second. Tony Davis. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, the next item on the agenda is another budget transfer. This is in arts and cultural development. I see Kit Potter has been waiting patiently. Hi, Kit. You want to just give us a brief overview about what's involved in your request here?
Hi. Yes, please. I thank you for considering the budget transfer from my department. First, as far as furniture is concerned, please note that since I've gotten here, we've been shopping internally for furniture. The desk that I had initially, I couldn't fit under. The desk I'm at currently, I can't fit under. Ruth Ann, Frank, Mike, our maintenance person, and others have went from office to office to see if anybody wanted to trade with me, and no one would. And we went upstairs to the attic to see if there was any available furniture that I could fit under. No, so right now I'm actually bending over, and it's hurtful. I'm also in a chair that is also hurting my back. And also there's two commissioners who have been gracious enough to take many, many boxes of my documents, my supplies, my exhibit supplies and what have you, and store them at their businesses because I was told there was no more room in the attic for another box. So basically I am asking, as well as a work table, for office desk, office chair, work table, and storage cabinet for my supplies at the tune of $3,704. Brian Waltman was kind enough to suggest some affordable items from WB Mason. I also am requesting a transfer of $200 for just more office supplies because I started out with not much. And I also am requesting a transfer of $1,500 for Spanish translation services. This is definitely related to the master plan. Right now, all of our documents are only in English. So I really do need to enjoin a translation service to translate at least a part of the Arts and Culture Master Plan into Spanish, as well as marketing materials and other materials. And also for any of our events, I would like to also hire a hearing impaired specialist for some of our events. And then finally, requesting for a transfer of $4,000 to continue the free arts and cultural programming, not only the City Hall exhibit opening reception performance, but also continuing the 150th City of Kingston celebrations and programming along that line, and also the successful music in the parks extending into the fall.
Great. Any questions for Kit on those items? Any questions? All right. The money for this would come from a grant transfer from health. So the estimated financial impact of the city is actually $0, correct? All right.
Correct.
The resolution reads, resolution of the City of Kingston Common Council to approve the attached 2022 Arts and Cultural Affairs budget modification request totaling $9,404, transferred from 7010.2705 grants. Do we have a motion to discuss? Tony Davis, second by Rita Worthington. Any discussion? Nope. Keep arguing, Kit. That's all the discussion we got. All right, then hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right. It is. Oh, that's why we're different. This is a laws and rules committee report. All right, y'all are on your own. Put your name on here.
Yeah. You have one in the other room.
Then I gotta run the whole thing out.
I've got one.
It's not here.
I don't think I've been there.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Are you dancing? Like, see that?
Most of us are on your anyway. All right, that's it. Thank you, Kit.
Thank you so much.
Special surgery to cut you down. All right. Next item on the agenda is from Health and Wellness. This is a budget transfer. Kristen, you're here. Tell us about this. Hello, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Give us a brief overview if you would.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Kristen Hessler. I'm the project, well, one of the project managers for the Department of Public Wellness. And we are requesting a budget transfer of $73,000. In accordance with this will have no financial impact. We're looking to transfer $55,000 into contracted services and $18,000 into general materials. So this is because the Creating Healthy Schools and Communities grant, it is a 5-year grant that the city received from the New York State Department of Health. It started in 2021, will go towards 2026. Unfortunately, because of some delays from the state, we actually got started late with the grant. So I started in December. I think I haven't met a lot of people, but hi, everybody. And we were not able to start spending down on our money until a little bit later into our grants fiscal year. And unfortunately, the grants fiscal year goes June through May, so it doesn't quite line up with the city's fiscal year, which is January through December. So basically, our budget transfer request is to just cover our expenses for our department's programming through the end of the city's fiscal year. All of the additional expenses are completely reimbursable by the grant. So anything that we actually have spent this year, it was because we were spending down on our funds from this grant. We had to spend it down by May 31st for this fiscal year. So our contracted services through our subcontractors, Cornell Cooperative Extension, through Family of Woodstock, they spent more money than we had originally anticipated because they were spending down their funds as well. And the same thing in general materials. So that's why we're requesting this budget transfer to cover our expenses. And once again, all of these expenses are reimbursable by our New York State Department of Health grant.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Good.
Kristen. Could you tell me what your programming consists of?
Of course, yeah. So we're creating healthy schools and communities, is that right?
Yep.
Yep, so it is a PSC program. It's called Policy Systems and Environmental Change. So what we do is that rather than, so I'm a dietitian, I've been a dietitian for over 10 years now, and I've done a lot of nutrition workshops. Rather than me going out and directly educating the individuals on how to make behavior change, we work with our community partners and say, how can we create systems change? How can we help create an environmental change so that it's the healthy choice, or I don't say the healthy choice because I don't like a binary of that. Healthy choices are an easy choice for the city of Kingston. So I do that a few different ways. I'll give a big overview. Creating Healthy Schools and Communities does food service guidelines. I currently work with community sites to help them create nutrition policies, and then we support those through behavioral change and implementation activities, and we're able to purchase some supplies for them. We also do that through connecting routes to everyday destinations. So what that basically means is active transportation, getting more people walking and biking places. And like, what can we do to support that infrastructure? So is it buying bike racks so people, when they ride their bikes, have a place to put their bikes? Is it supporting the YMCA's traffic safety program? So it's teaching people how to ride their bikes safely. It's a number of different activities that have been approved by the New York State Department of Health. And then with our two subcontractors, Cornell Cooperative Extension, they work with the schools. So they do nutrition and physical activity in the Kingston City School District. And then Family of Woodstock works with early care education centers. So they work with daycares and they help train staff at these centers on nutrition and physical activity. So we kind of hit like those big buckets. We help to create, like I said, these hopefully longer lasting sustainable changes that are really driven by community strengths and supports and what community needs. And I facilitate that through this grant and through the resources and support in this grant.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for asking.
Any other questions? All right, in that case, call for motion to discuss. Michael Olivieri, second. Sprinkle. All right, any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. First one read it. The report reads 2022 budgetary transfer request in the health and wellness budget for $73,000. Expenses will be reimbursed by the New York State DOH Creating Healthy Schools and Communities Grant Project and the Novo Foundation with no financial impact with this transfer. There's a bunch of fronts and twos. All right, so if there's no discussion, call for a vote. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Here we go. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna take my 8-month pregnant self and go home now. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is air conditioning for the Kingston Fire Department. Hey, really? Air conditioning?
Well, not my station.
They want to be hot all the time? Just kidding, no, just kidding. So, tell us what's up.
Last time, I was a captain up there back in the early 90s. That's the last time the air conditioning was worked on. As far as, we even put Band-Aids on that air conditioner. The air conditioner is the original from the North Shore. So, we had two thoughts, to split units in or replacing the air conditioning unit itself. And the unit itself, they can't find that anywhere. So pretty much it's split units are what we're left with. And it's just for rehab for the individuals. They have to go out, call after call after call, come back, the air condition, to rehab themselves and get themselves ready to go for the next call. So we're being a day like today, I know engine one probably gone 12 times already. You know, it's just one of those days, how to stay, you go when you go. So I'm asking you to put split units in, which should decrease our gas consumption up there, using it as heat in the fall and in the springtime. So the natural gas should decrease the usage of that station.
And you're sure that 2 units will take care of it?
That's a plumber, not me.
Okay,
Yeah.
any questions for Steve?
Not necessarily. Well, yeah, actually, everyone knows I'm a huge fan of keeping it fair, but is 2 enough is basically my question.
That was, we had 3 JSP, we had Laos come in and Carl Bell. So Carl Bell spec'd out, all 3 were spec'd out, what it would take.
And 2
Carl
is
Bell was the
sufficient.
lowest. So it is, I mean, I can't argue with it, I don't.
No, again, I'm asking if that's enough for you guys. I mean, if they said 2 is gonna be sufficient for the entire crew, then I'm fine with that, but, you know, like you said, 90-degree days, all that equipment, I wanna make sure you guys are comfortable when they get back in.
Right, but I can only go to Carl Bell.
Okay.
I mean, all 3 companies came to Firehouse, went inside and out, went to sort of the old unit. And only one gave us a price, even though they also said we don't know where we can get it, but it's still gonna cost us over $30,000 to get it. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
I just want to say that I recently installed mini splits at my house, and they are magic, and they're also super green. So I'm so glad you're going to be doing this, and I kind of wish it had applied to it. I really do.
I mean, just on that note, every day I get electrical permits for split units, every day. So there's a lot of different things.
All right, any other questions? Hearing no other questions, then the motion to discuss. Michael Vieri, second. Lee Davis, any discussion? No. All right,
I just want to,
go ahead.
this is for uptown?
Yes,
All right, so downtown, central are okay still, right now?
Central still has, we're still waiting on the renovation of Central.
Yeah.
So Renee and I ain't talking about every other window there, so we always have. And downtown, you know, across the fingers is still running.
Okay.
Okay, in that case, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. All right, and the chief's still with us. This is for masonry work.
Last time that was done in the early 2000s. And then that was company Rapids and Central Station had done it. So over time, over a period of time, the facade basically wears out. And what happened in the ice storm really brought it to light because the wires were pulled from company number 2, which pulled out, half dozen bricks came out. So during that time, Jimmy McGowan went up there and just put them all back in the puzzle. And then you gotta wait for a nice little temp and weather to come about, and then really the front of the building needs to be repointed around the corner, just on the room side of the building, the uptown side, so that all needs to be repointed. Then downtown station, we noticed that a break above the entry door in there, that there's mortar that's falling off this, I don't know what part of the building this is called, up on a roof area. And, again, we got a hold of McGowan, and, he came, said in the springtime, but he gave us some prices, and we got a whole 2 other masons, and they gave us prices, and obviously McGowan was the cheapest one. But McGowan has done work for the city before, with doing repointing of their buildings. Both brick buildings.
Are there any questions on this issue? Any, David?
Is this something that, did we get some funding for an ice storm? Did we say you see money? And no,
We had an item on the agenda a couple months ago with the ice storm where we took money from contingency to replenish the department's budgets for their ice storm related costs. This just didn't happen to be one of those costs. that we
Okay.
put money back in for.
So it wasn't any money that we received from the federal
No, there was no
government. We were just taking money from our funds for ice storm. Okay.
Yep.
All right, then motion to discuss. Tony Davis, second. Carl, under duress. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing no one's opposed, passes 5-0. Thank you. We appreciate all you guys do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're sorry to hear folks are roasted for that.
It's part of it now.
We're trying to make it not perfect.
Well, I feel a lot worse.
All right. So now, item number 6, budget transfer in the Department of Public Works. There's actually a couple here. So the first one is the shortfalls and counts sewer fund. Yeah, you got anything? Why do we need to know about that one?
No, not necessarily, just moving some money from one line to another to cover actual gas. That was definitely extraordinarily high, which we are looking into to make sure there's not an issue with Central Hudson's billing. But at this time, it looks like it's.
You mean what the issue is?
Oh,
That's the $3,000 on it.
Yeah,
Okay, that's, okay.
Those are zero impact, right?
Right, these are both zero impact.
Okay.
so yeah, just moving money within accounts.
Yes.
All right, any questions, Brad, on this one? All right, it reads, sewer fund, internal transfer, $3,000 from sewer construction material to sewer natural gas. Transfers to cover shortfalls of account, estimated financial impact, 0. Motion discussed. Michael Riviere, second. Rita Worthington. Looking the wrong way, Carl. All right, any discussion? In that case, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? That passes. Next one is the same. Do we need to hear anything about this one?
This is just to cover overtime accounts and some materials for the street, like electrician. Because we had to run on light bulb getting knocked over in recent months.
So speaking, we've got the new lights in now at the corner of Pine Grove and Bartlett, right?
Yes.
Yeah, very exciting.
Great. It's working great. Best here, just a good job.
Yeah, although what's fun watching people drive too far under the field and going,
Gotta use your summer.
yeah, we have better things to do, right? Okay, great. So let's see, motion to discuss. I want to go home, y'all. Second, Tony Davis. All right.
This is actually item number 8 on the agenda, right?
No, this is still number 6.
There was 2 transfers.
Oh, okay.
Did you read it, Randy?
Yeah, this one reads general fund, internal transfer, $20,000 per attached detail, transfers to cover shortfall in accounts. Estimated financial impact is 0. So is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. All right, now we're moving to, this is number 7, right? 4995.
Yes.
Yes, okay. This needs a little bit of explanation, so if you would, Ed.
Sorry, which one is this?
This is the one about the new software.
Oh, okay, I didn't have it printed out. So this is a requirement from the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles. We do an internal, our shop does all our vehicles for inspections. The software and machine itself has become outdated. We are mandated by the state. We are going to keep the inspections to have by this software and computer. The last one we did lasted a dozen years. So after talking with IT, came to the conclusion that it was the cheapest way to go. And let us continue to do things in-house.
So this is for you guys to be able to do inspection on your own vehicle without taking it to.
Without taking it to another.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ed?
The software, is this renewable or
It
is
is
it?
renewable and it's a late change.
Yeah. Okay.
If my car doesn't pass. Can I bring it in?
No. It's only for the municipal vehicle.
I know where.
All right, then, motion to discuss. Davis, second. Gary, any discussion? All right, so this is description to move $4,995 from contingency to garage computer software to cover the cost of the New York State vehicle inspection software. Sorry, it's right there. All right, and so the estimated financial impact is $4,995. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate what Public Works does for us every day. The next item, there's still none here. Yeah. Number 8. We're at number 8. This is for retirement. So one retirement.
Yeah, John, you happen to have that?
I think there was a number of them, that's just the difference of what was needed in the account, but, this is the standard, protocol here is to take money from contingency for the separation of service payments.
Okay. This is like the item number 1 on the agenda.
Yeah, there's, I believe there's another one too, when we get to the assessor's office.
Yeah. Okay, so this is moving 8,300, the 3-report reads, $8,342 from contingency to retirement accumulation, estimated financial impact, $8,342. Do I have a motion to discuss? Davis, second. Michael Riviere, any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
All right.
Anyone opposed? Passed unanimously. Let's spell my name. All right. Now we can say thank you. Number 9, I'll let you might stay around for this one. I might have something to do with you. Mayor Noble, you want to present or? Okay.
Yes, I will, I'll start and then, Ed can answer any questions. So as part of, working with John, to look at our, fund balance and ways for us to make, investments with, some of the, good financial, position that we were in. We really looked around at, obviously paying down debt, paying vehicles that we hadn't bonded for yet, but also looking at one-time capital projects that could make a difference in the lives of our residents and that were within the capacity of us to get done in a relatively short period of time. So we spoke to the Department of Public Works and we looked at were there opportunities for us to invest in paving. For folks who were on the council a few years, you may remember a few years ago, we did something very similar where we went to into city funds to be able to get some additional paving projects done in addition to what would normally be done with our CHIPS funding. CHIPS is a relatively regulated program that only allows us to pave streets once every 10 years. And so if you have a street that has had more wear and tear than that, or a lot of water main breaks or sewer breaks, sometimes even after 5 or 6 years, streets can get in really rough shape, but not yet be eligible to be paved. So we looked at what was on our drawing board for this year, and Public Works came back with a list of potential projects that may not be CHIPS eligible, or in areas of the city where we have substantial infrastructure work underground that we plan to do or are in the planning process of, where we're, potentially going to use some of our ARPA money, or some of our other funding sources to do sewer work. But that work is going to take time. In some cases, as you all know, some of these sewer projects from the start of design to actual construction can take years. Some of our roads don't have years left on them. And so being that temporary measures on pavement are not a CHIPS eligible expense, we thought that there was some opportunities for us to use some of these paving funds to basically do, what we would consider maybe more of a temporary paving job on some of these really difficult streets. One of those being Albany Avenue, for example, even though it's not necessarily a street that is that we're required to pave. We have substantial sewer work planned as part of the ARPA funding. You guys approved us to be able to start the process of doing design work to figure out what exactly needs to be done under Albany Avenue and then to start that process. As we all know, the street surface is not going to last as long as that process is going to take. So, adding Deputy Ryan, came up with the idea of us being able to basically put in, a thin layer of pavement on the driving lane of Albany Avenue to be able to help get us through this winter and into next year. But yet not do a full mill and pave job until after we get done with our sewer project. And so there are a couple of those areas in the city that, Ed and his team have identified, and so we feel like at this point, $750,000, will give us the resources that DPW needs to be able to get that done, and ideally, we're also, not biting off more than we can do, and so we think that that's what's achievable with our current paving schedule, which goes out through November already, so.
Right.
Anything else that I missed?
And you mentioned a couple of the parks as well.
Yeah, so like parks are not CHIPS eligible, so for instance, Hasbrook Park, the parking lot's not paved at the top or the bottom. And it's a mess, it doesn't look great, and so we thought that, we could go ahead and pave parking lots. And again, we can't use CHIPS money to do that. There's also a section of the Empire State Trail. We built a brand new trail just past the Hutton Brickyards, but there's a part of our city street that's a part of the trail that's not paved. And so you go from pavement on North Street to not pavement, back to pavement again, and there's just liability risk for the city of someone tripping, falling in a pothole. And so we want to be able to, see if it's not a very big stretch, but again, it's not CHIPS eligible because it's a trail. And so those are all part of and there's a bunch of other streets and sections in there. Yeah.
You said this is for this Albany Avenue is DOT, right? You say DOT, and are they putting in it?
Yeah, so you may have noticed that just the last month, DOT did an extensive pothole repair on Albany Avenue.
Oh, I was wearing yours.
Yeah, so DOT came in and.
I came back home and I seen it done, I was like, oh, DPW went over and.
Yeah, so that was the
Okay.
intention. We've been working in partnership with them and, you know, Ed is in constant contact to be able to make sure that, you know, if we do this, that DOT is also understanding that, you know, when we're done with our sewer project, that they need to do an extensive rehab of the entire stretch there. And, you know, that's gonna be millions of dollars, right? And so we just want to make sure that, you know, we're working together in tandem with them. And so we thought that this could be a nice effort on our part to kind of keep it better than it is today, but, you know, recognizing the DOT is still responsible for doing the full rehab, painting the lines, all that stuff that they've done. As we know, it's a very big, highly traveled corridor.
And where would this go from the stretch, from, what are we talking about?
Was it from?
From the circle to, well, where they left off at the hump, basically, all the way to Flatbush.
And how much of the 750 would be allocated towards that?
For that actual number, that was two something?
75?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not half, but pretty close to half of that 750 would be just for,
What are some of the other places besides the parks that you're paving?
There's a couple random areas, in Midtown, in Urine. Is going to have some,
Wait, you say some?
oh, no, that's
Some
in
things.
Midtown, that would be covered, the Van Buren Street from one end to something.
You guys like Green Hill? Green Hill is gonna get a temporary, payment on Green Hill.
So the areas, from Clinton up to, it's, not even Eugene, next to Sterling Street. In that bad area where the brush factory is.
Yeah, there's a patch on West Chestnut, from a big water or a big break, was it break?
From a storm.
Storm came in that we had, so that patch would get fixed with this one.
How many I mean, if you don't know off the top of your head, it's fine, but where are these streets in their chip cycle?
Yes, none of them are eligible.
No, I know that, but like, you know, so if we're repaving it, are we halfway through? Are we, 7 years through?
Most of them are half-life at this point. Some of them are at their term, but require additional work before we can do that.
Okay.
So.
And the parks are never eligible.
Yeah.
The parks are never eligible. But the biggest thing mainly in Midtown and Central Hudson has a lot of work to do in Midtown. They're gonna be ripping up every street in Midtown. That's why, they're kind of dictating to us where we can go at this point. So we try to work deals with them, where they set their schedule, we set ours. They work with us, in areas that we know we're gonna pave, they contribute to us, so whatever it would cost them to repair the streets when they are done, and actually give that money to us that we can put towards the full amount of paving to the entire street.
Yeah, the paving we're talking about, that's what DPW is doing, or are we contracting that?
This will be in coordination with Callahan Industries. It'll be subbed out, but DPW will work with them.
Okay, and is there, granted, I know the ice storm wreaked havoc on anything, but is there a reason why a lot of these streets were halfway through before we gotta repave them? Like you said, there were, some of them were 5 years into this thing, is it?
Right, because of repairs, busted water mains, sewer mains, gas work, different things, sinkholes.
A lot of private laterals.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that we see the most is that because, every house has a connection to our sewer, they all kind of age out at the same time and, everyone's replacing their laterals. And it's good that they're replacing them when they break, of course, but it does leave just one more hole for the water to get in and to buckle the streets. And a lot of the work though that, we're doing, why we're kind of using this funding for some streets is that we're basically just putting a layer of pavement on top of the roadways instead of our normal milling, because we're gonna be going back into these streets, most of them, and having to do full sewer work in the years to come, because we've identified areas and, just for you guys allowed us to purchase, with the ARPA funding, the new sewer camera. And so our staff have been out there working cooperation with DPW a lot over the last couple of weeks, and
Right, so we're systematically going through known areas and recording and, adjusting what needs to be done to follow up, to give the engineers more of a heads up of what it's gonna take to actually fix the proper way.
so we'll be coming back to you more and more, with sewer projects. Because we've now gotten a better handle on, or getting every day a better handle on the conditions of some of these, lines and, as you guys have heard and seen, even just getting, these things, getting contractors in place, we have, we're happy to be able to work with Callahan because they're so close and they're on state bid and, they do a great job. But just the cost of pavement, has gone up. You may have read that the town of Ulster actually had to cut back on their paving because of the costs. And, we thankfully receive enough resources, more than say a town does with our state allocations to do paving. But, a street that would have cost $20,000 2 years ago is now costing like $37,000 to do the same size street based on the current cost of asphalt. And so we're still getting all of this work done, which is great. And a lot of it is because of the new touring routes program that the city got in the last budget. We're now getting over $1.2 million extra in paving each year, last year, and then in this year's budget. And so that has really helped us be able to, and that's why we're doing, 3 or 4 streets every month from now all the way through November. And it's putting, our staff are out there and you're seeing it right now as you're driving around City Hall, the next streets we're doing are Prince, Grand, and East, right, that section.
Prince Garden,
Prince Garden.
East Around, and West Around.
So it takes those weeks to rip out every manhole, dig them up, replace them, fix every catch basin, move it, and again, our sewer crew out of the 50-some workers that we have in public works is probably only
a dozen
people. So like on top of all the sewer breaks and the normal sewer cleaning that they need to do, and so they're literally out there hustling every single day just to prep for that next month's paving. And it really just takes it just takes a lot of work behind the scenes. So I just, want to thank you and your staff for all the work you guys are doing.
Any other questions?
So-
I'm sorry, you were.
Oh, sorry.
I think my question's already answered though, by what Mary just said. These are all, you mentioned, these aren't gonna be mills, correct? All of them? Are we gonna build parks?
There are no, if any milling is done, it would be just to fine tune an area for grades.
And then this is kind of like unrelated, but sort of related because the cameras were brought up. Are you also looking at the laterals when you do this to kind of keep track?
We can't get up into the laterals, but on the way by, we can adjust the camera to look up, and usually if there's no bends in it, we can look up several feet, so we can identify where they're broken if they're within a few feet of the maintenance.
And you're keeping track.
We keep track of that, and then we will send letters to the homeowner, property owners, that you have a problem.
Thank you.
When do you anticipate these streets being
This
done?
year,
All of them this year? Because the ones that you just named are in addition to what you're already doing.
Yeah.
Right, so, and I know there's other streets on the cycle, right, that are going to be paved.
Yeah.
And so, my question is just, when are gonna.
we're gonna do our best to get them all done. Of course, it's weather dependent, the availability of contractor and their team as well, so.
Yeah, so I'm really just hoping that you can get them here now. It's in my ward, I complain all the time. And,
Noted.
get it done. I say, because I know someone mentioned about how the streets once every 10 years. Some of those streets are not even in the 10-year cycle. And that's a shame. And so.
But even though they're out of that cycle, they're still gonna be.
So I know they need a lot of
Major
work,
sewer and.
major repair work, which is, yeah, I understand that, but since we're doing temporary fixes, those streets should also be included in the temporary fixes.
Well, not for that price.
Not all of them.
Not all, but I'm just saying, just, make sure the whole city is included.
All right, so the committee report reads, authorize $750,000 transfer from fund balance in the general fund to establish a capital fund to be utilized for citywide paving projects. Authorize mayor to execute contracts for all related work from fund balance to transfer to capital projects. Estimated financial impact, $750,000. Do a motion to discuss.
I'm sorry, I just have one more, it's something just, I'm sorry, will you have to read the whole thing on the record?
No, it's on the record.
Is it possible that we can be provided a list of the streets that's going to be included in the $750,000?
Yes.
So that can be attached to the resolution?
Imagine.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
motion. And David? Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. All right. Anyone opposed? No? Okay. All right, we're excited to hear about all the favor. There we go. So we move to the next item. We already did number 10, so now we're moving to a budget transfer for the assessor's office. And this spending in the assessor's office is getting out of hand.
Good thing he's not here.
It's like $12 whole dollars. So,
I think it's a new available.
Yes, yes.
yeah,
I told Mike, I can speak for him.
I think we're okay with this.
Yeah.
A motion? All right, second. Tony Davis. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? This is the budget transfer and modification, transfer $12 from consultant line to meal allowance, created by the lines. It will be a new line. That's 1355.18-5835. The estimated financial impact is $0. All right, the next one is a larger transfer, though with the same estimated financial impact, $20,000, 600, contingency to retirement accumulation. So this is shouldn't that be a financial impact?
Yeah, that one has a $20,000, $600. And that's, once again, that's your payment for separation of service. In this case, it was retirement.
All right, good. So we have a motion to discuss. Michael Riviere, second.
Second.
And then, any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Very good. The last item here is from the assessor also. This is asking us to purchase a vehicle for the assessor's use. Let's see. So I spoke with him about this. The problem is that there is a vehicle now, but it's being used by lots of different departments. And so it's being used by engineering, it's being used by who else?
Housing's using it.
Housing.
Mayor, we know who else is using the,
Yeah, planning using once in a while, that's generally it, I mean,
Yeah.
if I walk to work and then we need a vehicle, sometimes.
The assessor's now getting over 4,000 items a year to have to investigate, so it makes a lot of sense that they would have a dedicated, the vehicle used to be mostly dedicated to the assessor's office. So in essence, they're asking for the return of a dedicated vehicle here. So questions?
Will this be dedicated then?
Well, I mean, it has to be.
It would be the assessors. I mean, I would imagine if it was needed for something else, it could potentially be available, but the intended uses for the assessor's office.
Yes.
No, my question is answered.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
No, again, from the conversation with Dan, he said, if another department did need it and it was available, that they're gonna use it, but as Rennie stated, they have over so many sections that they have to get out and do, and they just can't get to them without a dedicated car.
What's happening to the other cars? Are those gonna be the free for all?
It'll still be shared amongst all the departments. I mean, city departments, you know, share very well. I mean, they have a common sign in, sign out for that vehicle. There's just been a heavy demand for that vehicle, hence the need for, Dan's office to have a dedicated vehicle.
So, it is a green vehicle, so do we have, you know, the plugins all set for it?
We have plugins here, at City Hall, right, by my side. I don't know, would there be any addition at this point, or just use the one we got?
All right, then motion to discuss. Tony Davis, second. Bob Frankel. Any discussion? We'd like to see the assessor driver and well, hearing no discussion. Call for a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Inspections.
All right, that passes. There are a couple items of old business, but there's been really no motion on it. I don't know, there's the issue of $300,000 to the repair of the wall. From what I understand, there's no more information on that at this point. We're still waiting on that. Okay, so that will stay old business. And then there was also this one, the $321,000, multiple lines in the fire department.
I can speak to that. I think, I'm not sure, yeah, I'm not sure why they didn't, like, why it got pulled a lot. Like, Ruth Ann's been out, she had an injury, so she's been out. But I do know that we, you know, since June anyway, just this past last night, we've been voted to kind of accept the grant funding that we received from the state. And then we have since been working, you know, with Ulster County and our partners, and you know, we'll also submitted this, approve the certificate of need. So we're getting that to the state as part of that project, and so you know, we are in the process, would be in the process of you know, now starting to work on contracts with the county to hire this firefighter. And so, you know, unless there are other concerns raised, I mean, I think we're at the point that budget transfer, you know, yeah. That's the update for.
At the last finance meeting, I mentioned we didn't need it. Was, it's not gonna be tracked in the general fund, it actually, right, it has to go through, we spoke with our auditor, and they want it in a, what's called a community development fund. So I believe as part of the resolution you had the last one, we established part of that resolution for the grant, we established the tracking of it in another fund. But we don't need a general fund transfer for it.
Okay.
Right? That was one of the resolutions, was it not?
I would say the LS.
So it can come up, I guess.
Yeah,
That's at least the update of where we are with the project.
Yeah, it won't be in the general fund.
So can we vote on it today?
No, it can be pulled. I believe there's a resolution, pull it. There was a resolution at last night's meeting regarding the program.
Oh, yeah, okay, yes.
Yes.
So I think we're good.
Okay. Anything else to say about finances? In that case, then I'll consider the meeting adjourned. All right, everyone.
Motion.
I'll be. There's a motion.
Motion.
Okay. Yeah, I don't, yeah, I think you're okay. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.